The old man sat alone in his cabin. The small outpost was silent, a forgotten station at the edge of nowhere. Dust covered the steel floors. The lights flickered with age. The universe outside was cold and endless. He looked like a shadow of the past, thin, frail, his back bent with years. His hair was white, his hands shaking slightly as he poured himself a cup of recycled water. No one would see him as a threat. To anyone passing by, he was just another human who had survived too long. But the silence was broken. The sound came first, a sharp metallic thud echoing through the cabin walls. Then another. Then the crash of a door exploding inward. The old man did not move. His eyes simply lifted toward the sound. Alien raiders stormed in. Their weapons glowed with a faint blue light, energy humming through the barrels. Their armored boots smashed against the floor, their sharp voices barking orders in a language of hisses and growls. The leader pushed forward, towering over the old man. His face was hidden behind a mask of bone and steel. His voice cut through the room. "Human. Stand. Now." The old man did not stand. He calmly took another sip of his water, as if the invaders had come at the wrong time, as if they were nothing more than a mild inconvenience. The raiders laughed. One of them shoved the old man's chair, tipping it slightly. Another grabbed his thin arm roughly. His skin looked fragile, his bones almost ready to break. Surely, they thought, this was no fighter, no warrior, no danger at all. "Look at him," one of the aliens sneered. "He is nothing. A relic. A dying thing." Chains were brought. Heavy, black restraints forged for dangerous prisoners. They locked his wrists and ankles. The old man did not resist. His eyes remained calm, steady, watching them with the silence of a man who had seen worse. They dragged him out of the cabin, through the dust-covered halls, and into the night. Their ship loomed above the outpost, an ugly, jagged vessel of war. Its engines roared like beasts as the boarding ramp lowered. The old man was pulled inside. The raiders laughed again as they marched him through the metallic corridors. Other crew members turned to watch. To them, it was amusing. A frail human, captured without a fight. A trophy, nothing more. But the old man's silence unsettled some of them. His steps were slow, steady, never panicked. He did not tremble. He did not plead. He did not scream as most captives did. He walked as if he had already chosen his fate long ago. One of the younger aliens whispered to another, "Why does he not fear us?" The other growled back, "Because he is already broken. There is no fear left in him." Yet their words felt hollow, and even they did not believe them fully. The old man was thrown into an interrogation chamber. The walls were dark metal, lined with chains, hooks, and cruel instruments meant to break the strongest will. A single light glared down from above, casting his face in shadow. The commander stepped forward. His armor clattered as he moved, his mask glowing faintly. He studied the human for a long moment. "You are alone. Your kind is scattered. You have no one. Tell me why you sit in this place, in this forgotten station. Tell me what use you have." The old man looked up slowly. His eyes were sharp, far too sharp for someone so frail. He spoke with a voice that was calm, low, and chilling. "Do you even know who I am?" The room fell silent. The aliens exchanged uneasy glances. The commander narrowed his eyes behind his mask. "You are no one," he hissed. "An old, dying human. Your kind was dangerous once, long ago. But that time is gone." The old man smiled faintly, almost sadly. "You think danger fades with years. You think strength is in muscle, in weapons, in ships. You are wrong." The commander slammed his clawed hand onto the table, leaning close. "Speak carefully, human. Do not think to frighten me with riddles." But the old man was not frightened. He leaned back, his chains rattling softly, his calm eyes never leaving the commander's. "Predators," he whispered. "Do you know that word?" The aliens stiffened at the sound of it. The word carried weight even in their own tongue. Predators were creatures to be feared. Beasts that hunted without mercy. Killers that struck from shadow and left only silence behind. The commander tilted his head. "Yes. We know predators." The old man's faint smile grew. I trained the first ones. The words hung in the air like a blade. The aliens stared at him. For a moment, there was no laughter, no mocking. Only silence. The younger soldiers shifted nervously. The commander's grip tightened on the table. You lie, he growled. But his voice was not steady. The old man closed his eyes, as if drifting back through memories too heavy to carry. His voice was low, but steady, each word filled with the weight of truth. Long before your kind crawled into the stars, humanity made predators. Not beasts. Not monsters. Soldiers. Warriors trained to hunt as no other could. They were men and women who became more than human. And I was the one who shaped them. The aliens shifted uneasily. One whispered, "It cannot be true. The human wars ended centuries ago. Their armies are gone." The old man opened his eyes again. They were no longer tired. They were sharp, alive, burning with something none of them could name. Armies end, he said softly. But predators endure. Because predators are not born. They are made. The commander slammed his fist against the table again, trying to hide the unease spreading through his crew. You are an old man, nothing more. You think to frighten us with tales of the past? You are weak. Helpless. The old man tilted his head. Am I? The commander froze. The question was simple, but it carried weight. The old man was chained, beaten, surrounded. Yet his voice carried the quiet power of someone who had never been helpless in his life. The raiders laughed again, though their laughter was forced this time, strained. They left the chamber, leaving guards at the door. But whispers began to spread through the ship. Who was this human? Why did he not fear them? Why did his words feel heavier than chains? In the mess hall, soldiers muttered nervously. He said he trained predators. Predators of what? Humans. He means humans. That's impossible. Humans are weak now. Broken. Then why does he not tremble? The unease grew. Even those who mocked him found themselves glancing over their shoulders, their thoughts restless. In his cell, the old man sat quietly in the shadows, his chains heavy around his wrists. His eyes were calm, but behind them lay something ancient and dangerous. He whispered to himself, barely audible. They have no idea what they've taken. The alien warship continued through the dark void, carrying with it a prisoner who was no prisoner at all. A frail old man in chains, whose words alone were enough to plant fear in the hearts of warriors. And this was only the beginning. The interrogation chamber was silent except for the faint hum of the alien ship's engines. The old man sat chained to the cold steel chair, his frail body dwarfed by the shadows around him. His eyes were half closed, but he was not asleep. He was waiting. The guards outside the chamber doors shifted uncomfortably. They had been mocking him earlier, calling him weak, useless, broken. But after his words, "I trained the first predators," their laughter had stopped. Now, when they looked at him, something inside them felt uneasy. One guard whispered to another in their harsh, guttural tongue. "Do you think it's true? What he said?" The other guard growled back, but his voice trembled. "No. He is just a relic. He wants to scare us." Yet his eyes never left the prisoner, and deep inside, even he doubted his own words. The chamber door screeched open. The alien commander stepped in, flanked by officers. His armor glowed faintly under the harsh light, the mask covering his face shifting as he studied the old man. "Human," the commander said coldly. "You speak as if you matter. You speak of predators, of training, of fear. But you are dust. Explain yourself. Tell me these whispers of the past." The old man lifted his head slowly. His eyes locked onto the commander's, and for a moment, silence filled the room. When he spoke, his voice was calm, low, and carried weight heavier than chains. "You want to know? Then listen. But know this, once you hear my words, you will never laugh at me again." The commander sneered. "We are not afraid of old stories." The old man's faint smile returned. "Then let me remind you." His voice carried them back through centuries of memory, back to a time when humanity was not weak, not scattered, not prey. "There was a time," the old man began, when humanity faced extinction. Not from your kind, not from raiders and pirates, but from something far worse. Beasts that hunted across worlds. Creatures that made empires collapse. They were faster, stronger, and crueler than anything we had known. He paused, his eyes narrowing. And we did what humans always do. We adapted. We learned. And we made something the galaxy had never seen before. The aliens leaned closer despite themselves. We created predators of our own. Not beasts. Not monsters. Humans. Forged through fire, through pain, through trials so merciless that only the strongest survived. We broke men and women down until nothing remained but instinct, will, and hunger for victory. Those who endured became predators. The commander hissed. Stories. Myths. But one of his officers muttered, I've heard something like this. In the archives. Old records of human wars. Soldiers who fought like demons. The commander snapped his gaze toward him, silencing him instantly. But the damage was done. Seeds of doubt had already begun to grow. The old man continued, his voice steady. I was there. Not as a warrior. Not as a predator. I was the one who trained them. I taught them to hunt in the dark, to move without sound, to strike without mercy. I showed them how to break enemies stronger than themselves, faster than themselves, more advanced than themselves. And they did. Again and again. His voice grew colder. You fear pirates, warships, armies. But armies can be destroyed. Predators cannot. Because predators do not stop. The commander slammed his clawed hand onto the table. Lies. You are a broken human clinging to the past. Your people have no predators anymore. The old man's eyes gleamed. Are you certain? The word struck deeper than any weapon. The room grew still. Later, in the corridors of the ship, whispers spread. The crew spoke quietly, nervously. What if he speaks the truth? They say humans once had soldiers who fought entire empires alone. No, that is only legend. Then why does he speak of it with such certainty? The younger raiders avoided the chamber now. When they passed by, they kept their eyes low, as though afraid to look into the human's face. His calm unsettled them more than screams ever could. In the mess hall, an officer leaned close to his comrade. He said he trained predators. If even a fragment of that is true, then we are holding something dangerous. His comrade snarled. He is just an old man. The officer shook his head. Then why do I feel as if he is watching all of us, even when he sits chained? The commander grew restless. He needed proof. He ordered one of the younger soldiers into the chamber. Test him. Break him. Show him he is nothing. The young alien entered, armored and armed, his weapon glowing. He sneered at the old man. You are weak. Helpless. Without chains, you would still fall before me. The old man lifted his head, his frail body still bound, and spoke softly. Then come closer. If you dare. The young alien snarled and stepped forward. He swung the butt of his weapon toward the old man's face, fast, hard, enough to break bones. But in that instant, the old man moved. His frail hand snapped upward, chains clattering, and with terrifying precision he caught the weapon mid-swing. His eyes burned with a cold fire, and before the alien could react, the old man twisted. The weapon slipped free, clattering to the floor. The young soldier staggered back, shock painted across his face. The old man leaned forward, his chains rattling, his voice soft but sharp as a knife. Strength fades. Speed fades. But training never does. The guard froze. His heart pounded. He stumbled out of the chamber without a word, his face pale, his hands shaking. The whispers spread faster now. The old man had disarmed a warrior while bound in chains. He had not even needed strength, only precision. Only skill. The crew began to look at him differently. No longer as prey, but as something they could not understand. The commander returned to the chamber that night. His mask hid his face, but not his unease. You play games, human. You speak of predators as if they are real. You act as if you still matter. But you are alone. There are no predators left. The old man's smile returned, faint and dangerous. Predators do not die. They wait. They hide. And when the time is right, they return. The commander leaned close. You think you frighten me? The old man's voice dropped to a whisper. I don't need to frighten you. Your own mind will do that for me. For the first time, the commander hesitated. He turned away quickly, leaving the chamber. But his thoughts would not leave him. The old man's words echoed in his mind like a shadow that refused to fade. In his cell, the old man sat quietly, his chains heavy but meaningless. His eyes stared into the shadows as if he saw something no one else could. The ship drifted through the endless void, its crew restless, its commander unsettled. And the old man whispered to himself, so quietly that only the stars could hear. They think predators are gone. They are wrong. The galaxy has only forgotten, but it will remember soon. The alien ship drifted through the void, silent but uneasy. Ever since the capture of the old man, the atmosphere inside had changed. No one admitted it, but fear had crept into the crew. The guards who had once mocked the prisoner now avoided the chamber. The young soldier who had tested him still shook when he remembered the moment his weapon was stripped away by fragile human hands. And the commander, even he was restless. The old man's words echoed in his mind. Predators do not die. They wait. The old man sat in the interrogation chair, his chains heavy, his back bent. But his eyes were not on the aliens. They were elsewhere, lost in the past. The commander entered again, frustration boiling in his tone. You speak of predators. You speak of warriors who no longer exist. If they were real, they are gone. Extinct. Buried by time. Prove to me otherwise, old man. Show me what makes these predators more than a story. The old man raised his head slowly. His gaze pierced through the mask of the alien commander. You want proof? Then listen. I will tell you how predators are born. And his voice carried them all back, into a time of fire, of blood, of training so merciless that only the strongest lived to see the dawn. It began when humanity faced destruction, the old man said. His voice was steady, every word carrying the weight of memory. Our enemies were not like you. They were stronger, faster. Entire armies collapsed before them. We could not fight them as equals. So we made something else. Something they could not predict. He leaned forward, his chains rattling. The Predator program. The aliens listened, even though they did not want to. Something in his voice forced them to. They were not volunteers. They were chosen. Pulled from war, from prisons, from the ashes of broken cities. Men and women with nothing left to lose. We stripped them of comfort, of fear, of weakness. We put them in the harshest environments the galaxy had to offer. Frozen wastelands. Burning deserts. Death jungles filled with beasts. If they survived, they earned another day. If they failed, they died. He closed his eyes, and for a moment, he seemed to see it again. I watched them run until their legs bled. I starved them until hunger drove them mad. I broke them over and over, until only instinct remained. And then, when they were nothing but animals, I taught them to be hunters. The aliens leaned closer, some horrified, some fascinated. The old man's voice painted pictures they could not look away from. I made them fight in darkness. No light, no sound, only the breath of their enemies. They learned to see without eyes, to hear a heartbeat across a room. I forced them to fight machines faster than any human, so they learned patience, waiting for one single mistake. His eyes gleamed with memory. Do you know what happens when you strip away everything? When you push a human beyond the limits of pain, fear, and sanity, you do not break them. You forge them. And what is left is not human anymore. One of the alien officers muttered under his breath, unable to help himself, "This sounds monstrous." The old man heard him. His faint smile returned. Monsters are born. Predators are made. The old man's voice grew colder, heavier. The first test of the program was not training. It was war. We unleashed the predators into battle against an enemy that thought us broken. They expected soldiers. What they faced instead were hunters. He leaned back, his chains creaking. They moved like shadows, striking from the dark, tearing through ships, tearing through armies. Entire battalions vanished in silence. Enemies whispered of demons, of creatures that could not be seen, could not be stopped. But they were not demons. They were men and women I had trained. He paused, his gaze falling on the commander. And I watched as fear spread across the galaxy, not of humanity, but of what humanity had made. The interrogation room fell silent. No one spoke. Even the commander shifted uneasily, though he tried to hide it. The old man's words had dug into them like claws. His voice was not boastful, not exaggerated. It was too steady, too calm. The kind of voice only someone who had been there could use. Outside the chamber, whispers grew stronger among the crew. If it is true, then we are holding something dangerous. He said he trained them, if any of them still live. Enough. Do not say such things. You will bring their shadows upon us. But the whispers would not stop. The story of the Predator program spread through the ship like fire, burning away their laughter, leaving only unease. That night, the commander sat alone in his quarters. He stared at the stars through the viewport, his claws tapping against the armrest. Predators. The word echoed in his mind. He had seen many wars. He had killed humans before. They fought bravely, yes, but they always broke. Always bled. Always fell. But this old man, he did not break. And the way he spoke, calm, certain, without hesitation, it gnawed at him. What if it was true? He clenched his claws tighter. No, he growled to himself. They are gone. They must be gone. But even as he said it, doubt remained. Back in his cell, the old man closed his eyes. His chains lay heavy, but they meant nothing. He whispered softly, almost to himself, but his words carried through the silence of the ship. They think predators are only in the past. They are wrong. The past has teeth. And soon, they will feel them bite. The lights flickered. The alien ship moved on through the void. And with every passing moment, fear grew, not from the prisoner's strength, but from the terrifying certainty in his voice. Because the galaxy had forgotten the predators. But the old man had not. And he was not finished yet. The alien commander believes the old man is bluffing. No human could ever create the nightmares whispered in the outer systems. But when the interrogation chamber darkens and the old man finally speaks of where the predators were born, even the guards step back. He tells them of the training grounds, worlds so dangerous that even death itself seemed afraid. And he says, with a cold smile, I trained soldiers there, and they were not men when they returned. The chamber was silent except for the hum of alien machinery. The old man sat chained, his hands folded neatly, his expression calm. The commander paced before him, tail swaying in irritation. You lie, the commander spat. Predators are not made. They are born. They are chaos given flesh. The old man lifted his gaze slowly. His eyes, tired, but sharp as blades, met the aliens. You think you know predators, he whispered. But you've only seen their shadows. I built them in the fire. I trained them where death ruled every breath. The guards shifted uneasily. Some glanced toward the door, as if expecting something to come crawling from the dark. The commander laughed, but there was a tremor in his throat. You? A frail creature, half broken with age? How could you train predators? The old man leaned forward, and his chains rattled softly. Because I trained them where no one else dared step. The training grounds. He spoke, and the chamber seemed to grow colder. His words painted a world none of the aliens could imagine. A planet wrapped in storms, where lightning shattered mountains and the seas boiled with beasts the size of fortresses. Another world of endless forests, where the trees themselves hunted, their roots strangling anything that moved too slowly. Deserts with no water, where the sand was alive and swallowed the careless. And through each world, young humans were sent. Soldiers, broken from war, children who had nothing left but rage, men and women desperate to become something more than human. They screamed at first, the old man said softly, his voice like an echo of ghosts. Some died within hours. Some begged for mercy. But those who endured, those who survived, became something your kind cannot understand. The commander's tail froze mid-swing. His guards leaned closer, their faces pale beneath their scales. He told them of the first survivors. A girl who crawled out of the burning sands after a week with nothing but sharpened glass in her hand. A boy who climbed the storm mountains and returned with lightning scars across his body and eyes that no longer blinked at thunder. They learned, the old man whispered. They adapted. Where beasts ruled, they became beasts. Where the ground swallowed men, they learned to walk as shadows. And I trained them, day by day. Not in machines, but in the art of survival. The art of the hunt. The commander's throat clicked nervously. You trained them. The old man smiled for the first time. It was not the smile of weakness. It was the smile of someone who had seen monsters grow under his hand. Yes, he said. I trained the predators. The first of them. One guard could not hold back. He stepped forward. This is just human myth, he sneered, though his voice shook. No one survives such places. The old man turned his gaze on him, sharp as a knife. Do you wish me to tell you what became of those who mocked? He asked softly. The guard froze. The chamber fell silent again. And then the old man leaned back, his chains clinking, and whispered words that no one expected. They are still out there, waiting, watching. And when they come, you will understand that I was only their teacher. They became something far greater than me. The commander slammed a fist on the table, desperate to hide his own fear. Enough. You tell stories like a dying elder trying to scare children. Do you think this crew will tremble at your words? But he saw it. He saw his own soldiers, his hardened warriors, unable to meet the humans' eyes. They were trembling. They were whispering. And the old man only smiled wider. You've already begun to fear them, he said. And you should. Because fear is the first sign they are close. The commander tries to shake off the old man's words, but unease spreads through the ship. The crew starts reporting strange disturbances, shadows in the corridors, movements on sensors, things that vanish when chased. And the old man, calm as ever, simply says, they've come for me. The alien warship drifted in silence, but inside, tension boiled like fire. For days, the crew had whispered about the old man, about his strange words, his steady eyes, and his calm defiance. Some mocked him, others feared him, but all waited for answers. And now, at last, they would hear them. The old man sat alone in the dim interrogation chamber, shackles still wrapped around his wrists. The guards expected him to be broken, to beg for freedom. Instead, he leaned forward, voice low and steady. You think I am harmless because I am old. You think I am weak because I sit in chains. But you should ask yourselves a better question. Why do I not fear you? The commander, trying to look brave, demanded answers. Enough riddles, human. What do you mean by predators? What do you claim to have trained? The old man smiled faintly. It was not a kind smile, it was sharp, dangerous, the kind that made hardened soldiers shift uneasily. Predators, he whispered. The kind you've never faced. The kind that live in the shadows of your nightmares. I trained the first of them, long before your species even looked to the stars. The room fell silent. The crew exchanged glances, some sneering, some unsettled. But the old man kept speaking, his words painting pictures in their minds. He spoke of young humans forged into hunters, soldiers who were taught to stalk their enemies, to strike without mercy, to survive when all others would die. They were not born predators, he said. I made them. I shaped them. I showed them how to become death itself. And now you drag me here, thinking I am prey. No. I am the hand that fed the wolves. The commander laughed harshly, trying to crush the unease spreading through his ranks. But his voice cracked at the edges. Old stories. Empty words. Nothing more. Yet even as he said it, the old man's voice cut through him. Do you really think I am alone? The lights flickered. Somewhere in the ship, alarms began to sound. The old man didn't move, didn't even blink. He simply sat back, as if waiting. The soldiers tightened their grips on their weapons, but their eyes betrayed fear. Something was happening, something they couldn't explain. And for the first time, the crew of the alien warship began to wonder if they had captured the wrong man. The old man's whisper echoed through the chamber, chilling them to the bone. You will meet them soon. The predators I trained. And when they come, you will pray your gods are listening. The ship's alarms grew louder. The shadows seemed to move. Fear spread like wildfire. And in that moment, the old man looked less like a prisoner, and more like the key to something terrifying. The alarms shrieked through the alien warship, piercing the silence like a blade. Red lights flashed across steel corridors, and crew members scrambled in panic. No one knew why the alarms had triggered, no ships were detected, no weapons fired. But the unease grew heavier with every passing second. Inside the interrogation chamber, the old man still sat in chains. His face was calm, almost satisfied, as if he had been waiting for this moment. His captors tried to ignore him, barking orders into comms, demanding reports from their bridge crew. But every update came back the same. Nothing on sensors. No incoming vessels. No external breach. And yet, the alarms continued. The commander's voice cracked as he slammed his fist on the console. Find the cause, now. The old man's voice, low and steady, cut through the chaos. They are here. The commander spun toward him, eyes wide. Who? The old man only smiled. The predators. A sudden blackout swept across the ship. The emergency lights flickered weakly, leaving the corridors bathed in blood-red glow. Somewhere deep in the hull, a heavy thud echoed, followed by another. Then came the sound of metal tearing. The soldiers gripped their weapons tighter. Shadows stretched unnaturally along the walls, twisting as if alive. The tension snapped when one of the guards screamed. The others turned just in time to see him vanish into the dark, dragged by something fast, something unseen. His weapon clattered to the floor, the sound echoing like a death knell. Contact! Contact in Corridor 3, a voice shouted over comms. Gunfire rattled through the halls, short bursts of plasma flashing against the walls. But there was no return fire, only silence. Then the screams began. The commander staggered back, his mask of control cracking. What is this? The old man leaned forward, his eyes catching the faint red glow. For a heartbeat, he looked younger, sharper, like a wolf remembering the hunt. They're not soldiers like yours, he said softly. They don't march in neat lines. They don't wait for orders. They hunt. They strike from the dark. And they never stop. As if to prove his words, the chamber door dented inward with a thunderous clang. Something slammed against it from the other side. Once. Twice. The steel groaned, bolts snapping loose. The guards raised their weapons, forming a shaky perimeter. One of them whispered, barely audible, "No, no creature moves like this." The old man's voice dropped to a whisper. "Not creatures. Humans." The door burst inward, ripped off its hinges. Smoke poured into the chamber. Silhouettes stepped through, figures clad in matte black armor, helmets shaped to reveal nothing, glowing visors cutting through the haze. They moved with terrifying precision, not a wasted motion, their weapons raised but silent. The predators had arrived. One of them strode forward, his rifle steady. He didn't even acknowledge the armed guards, who trembled as if facing death itself. Instead, he looked at the old man. "Trainer," the armored figure said, voice distorted and cold. "We found you." The old man's faint smile returned. "Took you long enough." Before the commander could react, the predators moved. Swift, silent, merciless. Their weapons coughed brief flashes of light, and the guards fell where they stood, never even firing back. In seconds, the chamber belonged to them. The commander pressed himself against the wall, weapons shaking in his hands. "Stop. We are an empire. Do you know who you're?" His words ended with a choke as a predator seized him by the throat, slamming him against the wall with inhuman strength. The soldier's visor tilted, reflecting the terrified commander's face back at him. "We know exactly who you are," the predator said coldly. "And it doesn't matter." The old man stood, the shackles falling from his wrists. He stretched, his movements unhurried, like a master watching his work unfold. "These," he said to the trembling commander, "are the predators I trained. You thought humanity was prey. But now you see the truth." The commander's weapon slipped from his grasp, clattering uselessly to the floor. The predators closed in around the old man, forming a protective circle. For the first time, the alien empire's warriors understood true fear. And it was too late to run. The alien fleet thought victory was near. Their warships surrounded the old man's location, ready to strike. But then, the stars changed. Shadows moved across the void, and a fleet unlike any they had ever seen appeared, silent, deadly, and built for one purpose. The aliens laughed at first, calling them ancient machines. But when the ships lit up with firepower beyond imagination, their laughter died in their throats. These were no ordinary vessels. These were predators, and they had been waiting. The alien forces close in, believing they finally have the human under control. They broadcast victory messages across their empire, boasting of his capture. Yet as the old man watches from his cell, he whispers one word, now. The space around them shifts. A fleet long hidden, long forgotten, suddenly awakens. Ships shaped like beasts of war, forged from Earth's darkest days, enter the battlefield. They move with eerie coordination, striking weak points in alien formations with precision no AI could replicate. The aliens try to fight back, but their weapons are useless against the strange armor and speed of the human predator ships. Panic spreads through the alien crews. Commanders shout for retreat, but the predators cut down every path of escape. Inside the warship, the guards who once mocked the old man now stare at him in horror. What are those things? They whisper. He looks at them calmly and replies, the future you tried to bury. As the predator fleet tears through the enemy armada, whispers spread across the galaxy. Messages leak out, humanity's predators have returned, and nothing will stand in their way. The old man is finally freed, not by chance, but by the very creations he once trained. The galaxy realizes a terrible truth. The humans had not just survived, they had been preparing. The part ends with the predator fleet closing in on the alien homeworld. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy trembles, not at war, not at chaos, but at the return of predators unleashed. The alien homeworld burned in silence. Cities that once shone with arrogance now flickered with fire. Across the skies, the predator fleet circled like hunters closing in on prey. The galaxy watched in horror, billions glued to their screens, asking the same question, who is that old man? And then, the cameras caught him, standing tall on the deck of a warship, his chains broken, his eyes calm. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy remembered a name it had tried to erase, human. The alien leaders gathered in desperation. They begged for mercy, sending transmission after transmission. Their fleets were shattered, their armies in chaos, their worlds crumbling. But the predators did not answer. Inside the flagship, the old man stood before his captors, no longer prisoners, but trembling survivors. The same guards who mocked him now dropped their weapons, kneeling in fear. He spoke slowly, his voice carrying across every open channel. You thought we were gone. You thought humanity was broken. But you never understood. We do not vanish. We endure. We wait. And when the time comes, he gestured toward the predator fleet visible through the viewing glass, tearing apart another line of enemy defense. We return. The galaxy's rulers finally saw the truth. These were not machines. These ships, these hunters, were born from the darkest days of Earth's wars. They were weapons shaped by human rage, sacrifice, and will. They had slept, hidden, until one voice, the old man's voice, called them back. The old man was no ordinary prisoner. He had been a commander, one of the last of Earth's predator lords. His duty had been simple. If humanity was ever threatened again, he would rise, and the predators would rise with him. As the alien homeworld surrendered, the galaxy trembled under a new law, not written in treaties, but carved in fear. The whispers spread faster than any fleet, do not provoke humanity. Do not awaken the predators. The old man looked once more at the burning skies. He closed his eyes, whispering a name only a few still remembered, Earth. His mission was complete, yet his warning remained. Because the galaxy now understood the legacy of predators. They were not conquerors. They were not saviors. They were a promise. A promise that if the galaxy ever turned against them again, humanity would answer. And when humanity answers, nothing survives. Far across the stars, countless species shivered as the words echoed in their minds, do you even know who I am?